here. Normally these meetings are a little bit more informal, but Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. Thank you. So, we're at the start of our annual budget review process, which is for the second year, taking place in October instead of January, which, thank you, Carrie, Anna, and anybody else who dreamed that change up, because this feels a lot less rushed. Before we start with the fire department and let Chief Cross get out of here, I want you to know Carrie and I sat down today. Carrie and Anna had also sat down, and she gave, basically this budget breaks down to very few basic items that are worth noting right at the get-go. At a total versus last year, we're up $355,614. You arrive at that figure by going to that last page, and for the budget for FY21, you got to remember that we didn't have any transfers of the fire department reserve baked into that budget because it was to be voted on again, but it is baked into our tax rate. So you add it back, you put that back, you adjust that bottom line, that total general fund budget for FY21 to the figure shown plus 125,000, which is $4,788,258. That's your level playing field this year versus last year. You got to put that figure back in because we paid taxes on it. So if you do that, we're up a total increase of $355,614. The police line alone, policing services, is up $350,981. So that means that every other department, every other cost center combined was up a net total of $4,633, which is less than 0.1% worth of a budget increase. So we've kind of been hinting the last couple of months that we wanted our department heads to level fund or cut as much as possible because we knew that the police contract was going to go up about $350,000 alone, and they heard us loud and clear. So it's noticeable and commendable that you've all followed through on what we've asked. We're literally, if you take that one cost center out, this budget is up less than 0.1%. And I think that should be our mantra. It's also worth noting that last year we used $100,000 of our fund balance to reduce taxes, and that our tax rate is based on that. This year, the clerk and manager can recommend a $250,000 fund balance tax reduction. So it's essentially an extra $150,000 of revenue to offset this increase, which leaves us with a total increase of $205,614. Our grand list is $1,015,452,631. So if you figure that $205,614 worth of a net increase to be raised by taxes, we're starting up 2.025 cents per hundred worth of a tax increase. When we've got that police contract alone would increase taxes 3.5% if we didn't have that extra fund balance to offset it. Yeah. We're muted.
Oh.
All right.
You're
All right.
okay?
You good, Al?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So we're up. Every other department in town is up less than 0.1%. We've got one cost center alone that would raise taxes about 3.5 cents. You know, we've watched this budget pretty well. We're able to use $150,000 more of a fund balance than we were this time last year, which means we're starting at a place where this budget, if we approved it as it sits, would raise taxes about 2 cents. Now, Anna said something interesting about being able to have a tax sale after the first of the year when elections calm down and when COVID relaxes, hopefully. If we get extra revenue out of that, which we should, that'll work to offset that $205,000. So we're sitting in a pretty comfortable place for this year. So with that said,
keep in mind too, the fourth quarter payment that I pay the schools, well, Maple Run,
is usually about $180,000 less. So that will help the,
That'll further increase the fund balance.
Yeah.
So that's why we're pretty comfortable with the 250.
So
Yeah.
we're in a rock solid
and
place.
that's due to all your late filers. Because when
Yeah.
I set the tax rate, people are being charged as non-residents, so you're paying more.
And then you file, it gets reduced.
It reduces the overall, what I pay to school.
Stan?
Brendan, on page 9, when you reference going back to page 9,
Yep.
we do have Bob Fire Department, $125,000 included in there.
In this
In
year.
this one,
In
But when
that
you But
number.
when you compare it to FY '21,
FY '21, I had to add it
Right.
and
So-
raise that money.
so if you look, this figure for FY '22 is 5.1 and change. This figure, as it sits on this paper for FY '21, was 4.6. It should be almost 4.8 when you add
Right.
that back in.
But does
It was used in the tax rate.
Right.
you don't have to go back to the tax, to the payers this year?
It was
No, 5 years.
It's
no, it was not.
open-ended.
No, it was only
Open-ended.
1 year.
So
No.
well, it was open-ended.
Do you have a
Yes.
time
No.
report?
I do.
I'm of the opinion that we should never go back for that again. It
Well,
seems
that's
like
why
a
we-
wasted
that's why-
exercise.
Yeah. You want to read it?
I think that's how Anna.
That's how we
anticipated.
phrased it. Yep.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
when
it-
we
But-
voted,
I'm happy that it's here, already in.
Yep.
Yeah.
It makes,
That's the way we should do it. I mean,
so it says, shall the League of Voters of the Town of St. Albans authorize the select board to continue to fund $125,000 for the fire department reserve fund annually? It's open-ended, so.
well, that's, when I asked the question a couple of meetings when we were doing the budget, it was no.
Oh,
It wasn't open.
maybe I misspoke.
So,
well, we have the ability.
I'm happy that we see that it is.
This year, because we
Yeah.
hadn't budgeted, I had to add it.
Well,
Good.
this-
I'm
we can-
happy with that.
We could put that
Yeah.
125, or if in 5 years from now it's 135. We
Yes.
could put that in the budget every year without having an article.
Good.
I can't see it going up any, for quite a while. I
Well, there
think
we go.
We've got that where it needs to be for.
Off and on all year, Bob and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's in here.
No, we're in, so Stan and I were pretty doom and gloom the last few weeks, getting to this point, knowing that, we're starting with a budget that's gonna get us up 3.5 cents. That, we were right about that. And, the staff responded, they were up less than 0.1% total. And then we're gonna start with, the chief, who was actually down. I mean, some departments are actually down a little bit of money.
You hear that, Alan?
He did hear that. Yeah. So
I
page,
heard you were down, so I put mine up.
we're going to start on page 4. Fire department.
Forgive me, Al, I don't mean to have my back turned to you, so you look at that, but I gotta face these guys.
He can handle it.
So,
Go ahead.
normally
No,
how we
no.
do it is we go through
Okay.
department line by line. The staff went out of their way to level fund this year. I mean, it's really comparative to what we had last year. That said, we have 2 new board members. So I think this year we should look at it ourselves, compare it, we've got a couple years worth of budgets and actuals. And then we should just ask the staff members specific questions about any lines that confuse us or that we have questions about. There's no reason to go through every
Right.
single line.
If Carrie wants to go through it, that's how we've done it in the past. You've gone through it, and if they have questions,
Yep.
I'm here to answer.
So tonight we'll go through fire department, then Bob will leave because he has a meeting, then we'll go through the park and rec and DPW with Alan and John. And probably end tonight, and then the next meeting after you've had more time to digest all of the budget in its entirety, you can send me questions in advance, that'd be preferred, but otherwise we'll finish it up on the 26th. Okay. So I guess Bob can start with salaries. Or do you want me to?
Now, you go ahead, Carrie, and go through it, and if they
Okay.
have questions, I'm
You'll
here
be
to
there?
answer them.
Okay.
Here to answer.
So,
Everything.
Bob and I did talk about this under salaries. We looked at the stipends. It's notable that this year we went from pure stipends to hourly. We anticipated a little bit of a bump this year, and we did see some of a bump, but despite that, Bob and I both felt we could hold this line level based on the 2 quarters we've already paid. So we didn't increase that anymore for FY '22.
And in that is the part-time person,
Yep.
which Carrie and I have been discussing, and just to let the select board know, we figured that we could probably fill a part-time position within our ranks. So, because we have some guys that have Tuesdays off, we have some guys that have Fridays off, we have some guys that are retired. Love to see them have first chance at, instead of hiring somebody part-time,
Right.
to go within our ranks and give them the opportunity to make this money. And that's based on 24 to 30 hours a week.
Yeah. Doing a month's schedule at a time, so we had some reliable,
Bob, it would certainly be nice to have two guys in that truck instead of you sitting there waiting for a guy to come so you can take off.
Absolutely.
It'll get you to the fire so much quicker, the
Yep.
emergency.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, on page 4, there's nothing really left to talk about after you get to salaries. And everything on page 5, I mean, unless people wanna ask where you've gone down, which,
You can see.
yeah, I mean,
the only unknown, as I pointed out in my budget notes, was we do not know what dispatch is yet. We estimated that the dispatch for fire, number would be roughly 22.
How much of an increase, Carrie? Did 15,
I
20%?
think I had said 3% on that, that's how I figured that number, but we don't really know what those numbers. I think it is.
well, that's more than
But
3%.
I did call,
That's a lot.
email Mo and ask him if he had any ideas what it was gonna be, and he didn't have any ideas yet, so.
When do they normally do that, Bob?
Well, we're early doing budgets right now. I think the city takes a little bit longer, I think, I'm not gonna speak for him, but, and I think Dominic has to sit there and figure out what,
Like 4%.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I feel like it might be worth, we gotta talk about that when we get back to policing too, because Roger put in 40,000. It's almost like we need to either figure that we're gonna have to use some money either within this budget or from another fund.
Well, that 40 is just for Roger though, right?
Right, that's not for you
that's
too.
not for us, right?
Or
Right.
EMT.
It's like, if we don't know the figure, we either need to decide that if we go over, we're gonna find it somewhere else within the budget, or that.
What do we have? Amcare, police, and
Yeah,
fire?
Yep, EMT, fire, and police, yeah.
it's almost like we wanna put in an extra 20,000 in case it all goes over, or we just wanna leave it and say that if it goes up over what we budgeted, we're gonna go in and we're gonna find it elsewhere. I mean, we also have an emergency.
That's an option probably that you probably should look at.
And we also have 500-something thousand sitting in emergency reserve, so if we go over, we can use that, I mean.
Are there any questions on any other part of the budget, or are they
No, I'm good.
is it
I just,
self-explanatory?
as a new person, I just wasn't sure for under gas and oil public safety, like what that meant specifically
Okay,
as a budget line.
Okay, gas and oil is
Yep.
for fuel for
Yep.
the trucks, and gas for the building,
Yep.
the propane.
Yep.
So that comes out of that line. Firefighter health and safety, that's when we have bloodborne pathogens,
Mhm.
that we bring our gear up to, has to go in
Mhm.
Boston Tailoring, I think they're the only ones that do bloodborne pathogens.
Mhm.
So we have to bag everything and clean it. With the COVID now, it's a
Yeah.
little bit more expensive now
Yeah.
because after a fire call, but we do clean and sanitize after each call. If we come in contact with people with our turnout gear on,
Mhm.
we have a washing machine at Public Works. We've got all the materials to clean and wash for sanitizing gear. And so
Mhm.
it's more, we're washing our gear quite often now. So.
Yep.
Were you looking at public safety that went from 2,000 to 500?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. That's okay. That was
I
interesting. too.
started-
Yeah, that was
So,
totally fine.
The public safety part of it is, with the COVID, public safety is usually for schools, when we go into
Mhm.
schools to do, the kindergartens and first grade stuff, so
Mhm.
we buy a lot of coloring books, helmets
Yep.
and stuff. This is not the time to hand those out,
Yeah.
so we figured we'd go away with that
Yep.
this year and cut that budget down
Mhm.
for now, because
Okay.
we're not gonna bring a bunch of coloring books and
Right.
little bags of goodies for the kids.
Right. And they're pretty selective who they let into schools right now
Right,
too.
correct.
So,
Right, and,
yep.
we don't want anybody second guessing whether these things are sanitized or not,
Yep.
so.
Yep. I noticed too, just one other question about,
Sure.
with cell phones, how the actual is almost, it's over 900, but then the budgets have been typically lower, so is that
Because this year I had to get a new cell phone, but it was free, so.
Okay.
It was one of the free ones.
Okay. That works.
The year that we paid $9, I had to get, we had to pay
Yeah.
for that phone.
Okay, gotcha.
Any other questions for Chief?
No?
Bob, you have a new truck coming this,
It started, they started working on it, started building it 2 weeks ago. So that truck should be, I'm thinking late November, early December, but I'm gonna say late December. So, we
that's
put
all
the
paid
bid out.
for and everything right
Pardon me?
now? That's paid for and
It's
everything?
all paid for.
We
yeah.
get a discount because we pay in
Yeah, we
advance.
pay in advance, so we get like, what is it, 3 or 5% off?
Good, very good.
Big amount of money.
And the flip side is because we know that's coming, we put the current out to bid.
We put it out to bid, you'll be receiving that for your next select board meeting, I believe, it's 16th, right?
I think it is, yeah.
So,
Any good offers?
we don't know how
For
there's,
Sealed.
the current truck, you're putting it out for
the
bid?
current truck we put out to bid, so I do know one fire department that's putting a bid.
It certainly would be nice to have a mutual aid department buy it.
Yeah, I don't know if Carrie's received any others, but I do know
I
that
don't
one
know yet.
department has started the process of putting in a bid for it, so, yeah. And our neighboring department is really interested in it, so.
That's good. Fighting fires from ladders, they,
Right, yeah,
Not
I
good.
mean, that's the way to do it now, so.
right.
Well, we should be good.
It should
Well, so Carrie, you want me to discuss the air packs? And should we discuss that now, or if you got something else to do, that's fine, I can move on, I can make.
You can briefly go over what we're doing with the air packs,
So,
that's fine.
We had a fire department that was interested in purchasing our old air packs that we took out of service.
Yeah.
Just
They're
last
all
year.
old. 5 of them are 2017s, 5 of them are 2015s, and we had some air bottles that were 2016s, and they're 20-year bottles. So this fire department, which is Moore's, New York, gave us, wanted to purchase those 10 packs and some spare bottles, so they offered us $30,000 for what we have. And it's not all of it, but it's the newer stuff and the more up-to-date stuff. So I think that's a great thing that we get going there, because
Absolutely.
those things would have sat in the garage for 5 years, and in 5 years we would have
Are there
said,
any,
what are these doing in here, let's throw them away.
Are there any projects with the fire department that we can?
We
put
have a
money to?
project that.
Interesting you should ask.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it should stay there,
So,
right?
talking with Mike Murdoch, who does our boat and maintains our boat over in the islands at North Hero, and they also have a boat exactly like this. He said on rescue boats / fire boats / state of Vermont fish and game boats, those motors are 10-year motors because of the back and forth, idling back and forth. And he had ours apart last year because we had to put a seal in it. And he said those gears are starting to get worn. He says, those motors are 12 years old, Bob. He says, and when you bought the boat, you kind of figured that if you saved enough money that if you were going to do something, repower that boat, it wasn't going to cost you any extra. Because you were allotted, we were allotted $150,000 for the boat, so.
Yeah, it was 100, we paid
So,
110 for a $450,000 boat.
I'd like to request that we take this money that we get for the air packs and put it towards the repowering of that boat. And if we can do something like that, it might be a little bit more, I don't have the numbers from Mike yet, but I think when we were talking about it earlier this year, he was talking 35. But he also said that we could probably get something for our old motors too. So it might not cost us anything if we use this 30,000 and we get rid of our other motors. So, I'd like to be able to get the ball rolling so he can order those so it doesn't, so after the first year, we get a 10% increase on the motors.
Yeah.
We did a state contract on them, so the motors are probably gonna cost us like $15,000 a piece, which they're probably $21,000 motors a piece.
I would
And it's
say-
gonna lighten up the back end of our boat by 300 pounds. And,
Is that your recommendation? Is
that's my
that-
recommendation on that, yeah, absolutely.
So
Well, it should go into the fire department reserve.
Right. Yeah.
That was our
So
plan.
that's gonna go into the reserve, and
Mhm.
then do you need
I don't-
select board consensus or a vote to be
No.
able to access that money?
No, we just wanted you to be comfortable with that, and I think it's in line with our plan.
You go right, I'm good with that, I think it's
Bob, something that would be nice for the public, I know that you've done some rescuing this summer.
Yeah, we did
But-
quite a few this year.
No one knows about it, and we should get that out, I believe.
If you can give us a
I
list, we
I
can turn
do
it,
that.
if you can give us a list and a picture of the fireboat in the water, if you've got one,
Yeah, we got all that.
I'll make you a really nice graphic, we'll put it on Facebook on the town's page, and the fire department page can share it.
I mean, we put it in the town report every year too, but I'm not sure everyone reads that, so this
Right.
is
Let's get it on
extra.
social media.
Sure.
Yep.
I'll get something to you.
And
I'll have
if you-
Jay put something
Yeah.
together.
You know, if you'd like any help, I can help you write a letter to the editor too about it,
Yeah.
get it in the paper.
I think we can handle it.
You got it?
Yeah.
I know you're busy.
We'll get one to you. How's that? I'll have
Sounds
Jay
good.
work on it too. Jay's our boat captain, so.
That sounds great.
And we do it for surrounding towns, because I know the people we picked up were from Georgia, and we brought them,
Well, a lot of people that we picked up this year were a lot of out-of-staters. So.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, we were quite busy this year, of course.
That team does a good job too.
He's got a question.
Al?
Yes, while you're on the budget and so forth, why doesn't the fire chief tell us how many people he did rescue? I think this was good information for the public right
Yeah,
now.
I don't have the numbers with me right now.
That's all right.
I know we've gone out at least 10 times this year, for sure.
10 times?
10 times, for sure.
I didn't know if you could hear
It
you,
might
that's
be
why I
more.
was-
It might be more than that.
That's great. Saving any lives from
Uh,
drowning and what?
Yeah, the most people that we picked up at one time was 5.
Fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
we should know about that.
Yeah, most of them were out kayakers and out there at the wrong time. They don't know our lake like we do, you know, they just get out there and they just, all of a sudden, those storms just come up and it happens to them, so.
Thank you.
All right,
That's all right. Go ahead. Go.
Well, any more questions for the chief?
I only got one other thing.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make it quick.
No, go ahead.
So with the way we work with the fire department is we try to move equipment around, replace our equipment while it's worth money.
Yeah,
So we currently have our 1-ton pickup that we have that, it's a diesel and everything, and I asked a question about, to the dealerships, can they take trades on municipal vehicles on the municipal contracts, and they said they can. So I just went out and I got a price just from one dealership to figure out how much it would cost us if we replaced the truck, not this, after winter,
Yeah,
in the spring.
yeah.
The truck's like $61,000, we get 25 for our truck, so, no, 61, and then with the municipal contract, it's like 49. And then I said we could get probably 25 to 28,000 for our truck wholesale. So it probably cost us like $25,000 for a brand new diesel 1-ton truck, by the time we're done. And I think that's pretty good for what we have, and I think that's something we should look towards come
You got,
spring.
you think it'll come?
I don't think we have to put it on the
Ballot?
or
No.
anything, but-
But Bob, I think you need something to get like up on Bellevue Hill where you couldn't make it this spring.
You're gonna find out that when we replace our rescue truck, and we're gonna start the process
Okay,
come spring.
okay, as long as you're thinking about it.
They have been
that-
talking
good.
about that.
That's gonna happen in the spring. We're gonna start
Good.
specking out a new rescue pumper. So-
Okay,
And it's gonna be all-wheel drive.
good, you're ahead of me all the way, Bob.
Yeah.
They didn't
All
like
right.
it at all.
Yeah,
I think your reward might just be a new truck. Or 3.
yeah.
You get good ideas from Al.
So in summary, we're not gonna ask any questions for any large fire department equipment on town meeting day.
No, nothing this year.
We're gonna have a big one for town hall, so.
Correct,
Right.
but just in
Hopefully,
case.
if all goes well, November 3rd. Yep. So, well, thank you very much, chief.
Well, thank you.
If anybody
Any
needs
questions
anything,
or
I
anything?
think, yeah, email.
You know my number, you know my email, so.
Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail.
Uh,
You want this?
Yeah, leave that there, that's fun. No.
No, I'm not sitting there, I'm just telling you that. No.
Okay, Alan, you hope you don't end up there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Isn't- Or we put all the newer people, so John's next.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
Take care.
All right.
Okay, so we wanna do parks now?
Sure.
Okay, so
Yep.
parks.
So that. Starts on page 6.
Okay, so it's gone up a lot in the last 2 or 3 fiscal years, but the service that we get out of it has gone up more than the cost. I mean,
Yeah.
what we were spending on parks before, that 187,000 we spent in FY '20, for what we get in return, we're probably spending less out of spending 241,000 in FY '22. I mean, it's what we get in return for what we spend. The ratio has been worked out so much better in the taxpayer's favor that I have no issue with this budget at all. I mean, if anything, I'm not this year with this police contract the way that it sits. We can't probably offer you more to get more things going, more things done, but we can support what you presented is my feeling. I mean, I think you've done a pretty remarkable job this summer. I mean, if you remember Jessica and Stan, it was this time last year that Alan pitched us the idea of hiring somebody in the position that John now holds, and that's worked out beautifully. I think you've done phenomenally all summer. Looking forward to the holiday extravaganza. It's probably going to be the best event we've ever held in that park. Now you're talking about taking over Bay Day as a town event. Is that still on the?
The Great Race is now the town event, so the triathlon is now St. Albans Towns. So we can combine that with Bay Day, making it a bigger and better event.
And that's essentially going to save the Great Race, is what it's going to do.
Yeah, we got some fresh ideas. John and I have done a lot of talking. We've got a lot of different ideas we want to do. And John's done a fabulous job with his crew, keeping the park clean and running the events.
That park has never looked so good. None of them have.
So many people have come up to me this summer and fall just saying how great it looks and how many events are in the park, and it's always full of people.
Well, think about, we spent, in FY '20, we spent $187,000, and we were open Memorial Day to Labor Day, so to speak, officially. You've been holding events well into September. We're gonna have another one on what would have been Black Friday. I mean, access is up, the town forest is beautiful with the help of good, strong volunteering and grant money. And the park, I mean, Bay Park has never looked this good. Cohen Park has a pavilion and it's being used probably more than it ever has.
Oh, it's been packed all summer.
It's phenomenal. So
And
with
the
that
parks,
in mind,
and the park's just barely closed down. John had them open right till the first weekend of October.
I mean, access is up. If you figure what we're spending versus what we're getting, this budget right here is a better deal than it was in FY '20 to the average person. I believe that to my core. The money is a little bit more, but when you figure what that costs on a $200,000 house versus what you get in return for it, it's like money in the bank.
I think the other thing is eventually I can see the parks being self-sustainable. It's gonna take, you ever heard the term, you have to spend money to make money. So we're trying to get the parks and everything established the way it should be. And with all the events, and eventually that will bring in revenue, which will go to our bottom line, which will help pay for the parks. So I think it's a good thing if we keep plugging forward. And I think it did show with, didn't you say, a Georgia representative with the state that's helped pass us to become a village center, was all the activities in the parks and the way the park looks.
That's fantastic. The parklet alone at the Bay Dock, I mean, everything that we have is getting used more than it's ever been used. And that's a testament to investing money in this budget. It's, I'm gonna shut my, I could talk about how nice the parks are all night.
All right, and I think notable is Al and I worked on Bay Park events. The reason that went up was because we went through and, looked at the budgets for all your different events.
Yeah.
So that was.
Well, and fireworks went up. We just got an email that fireworks for 4th of July, you have to spend more money now, or otherwise they don't do those events. So the cost of everything right now is going up, and we really worked hard to try cutting this where we could. But like your hand sanitizers, we need all the dispensers and that for every event, the playgrounds, the exercise equipment. And it's pretty costly right now for hand sanitizers and the bleach and all the cleaning, so we did make some cutbacks. I mean, we took 10 grand off at the park infrastructure. Saved a little because we do have a little bit of sewer work to do. but we try to make cuts where we could.
I think it's a fair budget.
So are there any other questions?
Yeah.
You have anybody have any questions on parks? We're gonna move on to DPW.
No, to me.
Good.
Yeah, I know.
It's good.
Big fan. John, you got off very easy for your first budget.
Yeah, it was easy.
Don't get fooled.
Now
Yeah,
watch
okay.
what Alan's about to have to go through.
There we go.
It's really not that bad. I mean, you're down.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
Lord.
down.
You're down. I mean, you're doing well. I mean,
I've,
you've responded to what we asked for.
Yeah, I cut quite a bit out.
You did.
Do you just want to pass this one to them, make night easy, or do you
Well, it's
want me
worth
to go
noting, I
through it?
mean, we got 40,000 out for stormwater and MS4 for the utility, and we've got, the DPW AOT structural grants, 50,000 last year and the year before. This year we're budgeting 30, so that's 60,000. But that's our biggest department as far as the FTEs go. So salaries are up.
And that's
health
not
insurance.
adding, I'm sorry, that's not adding anyone.
No, we're not adding anything. We've got to give people raises. We learned that lesson a couple of years ago. You know, you got to keep, if you want to keep and attract qualified people, you got to pay what the market pays, and that's.
And that, to be clear, is not all raises. I don't want that getting back to anyone in the
No,
department.
you know what I mean. Like,
Well, I know what you mean, but I just want to make sure we all are on the same page. Part of that is just filling in what we approved last year, so it's no other FTEs added.
I would say this is the biggest budget we have within our budget. It's the biggest department budget. Alan is as good as anybody in the entire state as far as watching a DPW budget goes. You know, every nickel we give him, it gets scrutinized the whole way. So, I looked this year because I really wanted to get into it with him just for the fun of it, and I can't really find anything to get into it.
I mean, like your garage here, I use that as an example. We were budgeting last year. I've already called Bluens. They're honoring the price we paid last year. I budgeted out, so I was able to maybe cut $2,000 there. So I try to shave off where I could. Gas and oil, I brought that down $5,000. I try to do a few increases where I needed. Salt and sand is a crucial one.
Well,
I mean,
This was the first year with our new garage, so we had some actuals and.
exactly.
well, look at that actual. That's one question that we probably ought to ask.
Mhm.
That actual for salt, sand
Mhm.
versus what we had budgeted.
Sure.
That's fine. We had almost 160,000 actual on
Yeah.
FY20. We're budgeting 120 this year.
But
Well-
that was in the old garage too.
Well,
Oh,
The
I'm
pro-
sorry, you're on salt and sand, I'm sorry. I
the
thought you
problem
were-
we had there is the way the salt budget works, and it's a tough market. I mean, when I first started here, we were able to get the salt shed and keep it full. But in the past couple of years, they're not delivering salt to us. I can have 10 loads ordered. They'll deliver to V-Trans, but they won't take care of the towns until the last minute, and then your contract's done at the end of March. So that you can't get any more salt until they go through the whole state process. I just barely signed a contract, was it a week ago I came in and told you? So our first load of salt for this year is getting delivered tomorrow. So I'm running on an empty shed, getting late in the season, starting to have salt come in because it took the state so long. So the problem is we had an empty shed. I used all our revenue to fill the shed. We had a bad season, and we went up to almost 160. So
Do you need more?
had we had a decent season, and I was able to use last year's budget and had the shed still full, it wouldn't have looked that bad. You know what I mean?
There was just so many small
It's
storms.
a small
Little tiny
Or
ones.
should we put 150 in there and have it, or are you comfortable with going over if we go over? I mean,
That's up to you guys. I mean,
and we see every year we have.
I was given the job to try cutting this budget down as much as possible.
Was it sustainable? I mean, do you think that
I
that's?
mean, that's what I tried to do.
I think this is good, but, you know, if we have to, we do have an emergency
Well,
reserve
that's
for
it
that.
too. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're trying to keep taxes as low as possible.
People aren't driving as much either.
We always hope for an early spring.
Carrie, what do we need to
Farmers
tap
only
into
access.
that fund?
Yeah.
Anything?
There are no criteria right now for that, so
So
that's,
good.
going over in our sub-budget would certainly qualify. I mean, we might wanna do that going forward.
Yep.
Clarify what you believe the good
No,
use
but if
for
we
that
need it,
fund.
we can tap it.
Yes, correct.
I've got the ballot article
I would-
in the check.
I'm fine.
I would
We're
think
good.
road salt would be,
No,
That'd
it
be one
is.
of the reasons, yep.
And the
Yeah.
reason why we actually started that, if you remember, is because of Irene and all the Hathaway Shore got washed out, and you had to
We had to pay for it
buy
before.
stone.
Yep.
and-
That's true. We're in good shape.
yeah.
Ellen, I have a question, and rang my bell a little bit when Carrie said something, we got a new building. The new building, is there things in there that need to be repaired before our time runs out?
There is, and they're actually documented and being worked on.
Is it getting done, the things that need fixing?
Actually, I just got an email today. They're supposed to be showing up tomorrow. Having some issues with the humidity fans, and I'm thinking that's what driving our electrical cost up, so the
Yes.
plumbers are supposed to be there tomorrow. We did have another issue with the garage door, so, there's supposed to be parts ordered, they're supposed to be coming in. There's a few minor things, but I'm staying on them. I let Mike Connor know and Ben Toof at Connors. So they document it and they send an email documenting their emails to the right contractors.
Does it run out the day you moved in, a year from,
Well, as long as you report it, our warranty's good.
Yeah, as long as I've reported everything before that warranty
but it doesn't
date.
set it back a whole year once you no.
No.
So
So it's.
the doors
next
are a
couple-
major issue, would you say?
Um,
A couple of them.
yeah, the doors have been an issue in this whole humidity.
Will somebody get hurt, Ellen?
The humidity thing, no. The
No,
doors,
the doors.
yes. The doors are, I hate to say it, but they've been a real issue.
We've had 3 of them,
Yeah, 3 of them have come
Slammed
crashing down.
Ooh.
One almost hit one of our employees, so
Ooh.
I've had a conversation that no
It's a
one
safety
did.
issue, the window breaks and
Yeah.
it just comes down.
That's the least of my worry of the cut. It's, those doors have such heavy springs and if
Oh,
they don't
right.
slam them down, they'll break someone's back or kill them.
Wow.
I mean, you think it's a cannon going off when they hit. They're
That's,
a lot of
parts are
force.
ordered and you're working on it, and everybody's been briefed to stay away from them.
Yeah, I had a conversation with all my guys, don't just hit the button and walk underneath it, stay back until it's totally up, or, I just, for safety reasons, I mean, that's,
Well, you could be bringing a truck in and that thing crashes down on the hood of the truck
Yeah.
or on the cab.
yeah, and then, that's even a bigger problem, but once
Wow.
again, they should.
All right, so you're
recognize
aware
all
of everything and Carrie's aware of it?
Yep.
We're working
And
on
the contractor is aware of it
Contractor.
and working, and the sub, so these are all
Okay,
actively working
glad you brought that up. Tim.
on a solution.
Anybody have anything else for Alan?
Yeah, I do. It's a bad subject,
No, never.
bad subject.
Let me take a drink.
MS4,
Yeah.
we have no money now. This is gone from the budget.
It's in the DPW.
And if Alan's gonna be in charge, he's gotta start
Huh?
Zero bit.
budgeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
And we need that. How are we gonna,
The utility bill's gonna pay for all of them. We're not taking a nickel out of the general fund anymore, cause every nickel that we take out of the general fund to use on stormwater, nonprofits in the area, whether it be churches, hospitals, or schools, don't pay into it because it's a property tax. And I'm just explaining this
right,
in case
but should
anybody's
he
listening.
should Alan be looking at a budget for what he?
I think we've got one already drafted,
Yeah, there's a draft budget that was
so
done
Alan should
with
start
the,
sharpening it up,
yeah.
getting ready, and get somebody hired and start
Oh,
getting
Alan.
calculating.
Alan and I have to work on that together.
So let's set some expectations, because we're down 2.5 people upstairs at the moment in administration. So we have, the goal is that we'll have somebody for the zoning administrator figured out, maybe even this week, maybe. That's the goal. The director of the director of operations job, the posting ends this Friday. So when those 2 positions are back full online, that's when I'll be looking as an individual to start seeing some action on the stormwater utility. Namely, the credit system, getting somebody onboarded so that they can start figuring out how we're gonna bill the commercial users, because that's gonna take a lot of time. And we need an FTE like tomorrow if we're gonna get these bills ready to send to the tax bills next year. But we have a limited staff at the moment, and, you know, if it gets put on the back burner for a couple of weeks while we figure that out, and that's the, you know, if you're used to having two parents in the house and one goes on a work trip for a week and the laundry doesn't get done, you can't blame the one parent that was still there. You know what I mean? It's one of those scenarios. Al?
I think you should.
Yes. May I suggest that the town loan the MS4 utility as X amount of dollars so that they can continue their work, and once you get the utility up and the bills out and the income revenue starts coming in, you can pay back the town?
Well, that's what we had decided to do with the one staffer that we need, because we think the only startup money we're gonna need is one FTE to figure out the billing. You know, these commercial users have to pay $65 per 3,500 square feet. It's gonna
Yeah, I
take somebody.
understand that, Brendan, but is there any work that has to be done immediately by DPW or this new utility?
You have work that needs to be done now.
Boy,
I mean, he's doing the work right now. I mean,
Yeah,
we
we're doing it.
have to wait 60 days, so.
Well,
Right, but can't you have an account that you can charge and pay, the town pays it, but it's a loan?
We certainly could loan the utility money, though. The utility's gonna be an enterprise. We just have to clarify what our expectations are, and I don't wanna just throw money
I
at
don't think we're gonna
something.
be able to get anything other than figuring out the nuts and bolts of the utility and the billing process done between now and when the bills go out in July anyway. I think whatever we have for stormwater projects are gonna be done in the fall, probably. If we have anything that's done in the spring, we can carry it through this budget. Like we said if we onboarded somebody before the bills went out, we would front the money out of the general fund and pay it back with the utility. So we're already in agreement to do exactly what you're saying, we just haven't formalized it.
Right.
Yeah. So, anything for, you have more for Alan?
Yes, I have one more. It's gonna hurt again. Now, Bob has a equipment replacement fund, $126,000. I don't believe the DPW has any replacement funds.
They do a little bit.
We actually talked about it, Alan and I.
Oh.
But go ahead, Anna, with the part you're
We
gonna.
do a little bit. I don't have the reserve, his DPW reserve.
But we're not putting money every year into it, are we?
Well, we're down to $35,730 a year.
You can't buy much with that.
No.
No, what Alan and I talked about was roughly, I think it was 38,000, maybe 40.
yeah, we're talking about putting a budget together to start getting the revenue coming in, so it would start, we talked about the next truck, is a mid-sized truck, and then the next truck after that's a big truck, so you're talking in the next 3-4 years.
We wanted to start a
spending quite bit.
replacement, an annual replacement amount every year, and that amount would be $38,000 to $40,000. So that would fund that truck replacement every 7 years for the smaller trucks, I think you said, and
10 on the bigger
10 on
ones.
the larger trucks.
We need to do something.
So that would be an article, right?
Correct.
Is that enough? That's 380,000 over 10 years. Sounds like there should be like a 1 in front of that, like 138,000. I know this
We're
makes
not.
sense.
We've got to, that's why I didn't propose it yet tonight. We didn't finalize
I was gonna
that
bring
number.
up I had a capital equipment replacement plan and,
We have one.
and then,
Why don't we leave that for tonight and come back to it?
yeah.
Because we need to have you replacement fund.
Yeah, because we only have $35,730. But right under that, we have capital equipment for 20,000, which is pretty much a slush fund to cover anything that
It's
comes out.
non-department specific, and
Right.
like Alan and I were talking to Stan's point that, you know, it works really well with our fire department to be able to save ahead for vehicles and then get a good deal and not have to pay finance charges.
Well, I'm just saying, like this year alone, we could take that 20,000, and since we're trying not to raise this budget, we could make that 35,730, 55,730, and then next year we could increase it again. Like, I don't know that we need to keep putting. It's nice to have that capital equipment account, Like when we needed 20,000 worth of HVAC work done on the fire department 2-3 years ago, and we had money in the bank and it covered it, we didn't have to go out of our way. It's
Right.
nice to have those accounts, but it's tighten your bootstraps time, it's tighten the belt time. So if we need to move that money up, and then if you say it needs to be 100,000 a year after you do your budget, we can increase it again next year and get it to where it needs to be. Maybe make like a baby step in the right direction this year, I don't know. I agree with Stan though, that number should reflect reality, because if we need
Well,
100,000, we're saving 35.
You're right, you're either gonna save the money now or take out a loan.
Yeah, I would save it now. Save the interest. Cash deal.
Mhm.
You know, no debt. No
Correct.
debt, the way to go.
No debt,
No debt, that's right.
Right.
We got one bond and it's paid by the users,
that's exactly right.
so,
And that ends in 2026.
correct. So we've
How
got,
old will we be?
I mean, it's worth reiterating in case we've got a new resident watching these meetings trying to familiarize themselves with the municipality and its budget. We're a municipality that has millions of, we have 7 figures worth of cash in the bank. We've got no debt paid by the taxpayer. We've got a state-of-the-art public works facility that's still under construction for the salt shed, but it's probably the best municipally owned public works facility in the state of Vermont, literally. We owe no money on it whatsoever. And we've got a way to pay for a new town hall without raising taxes by using the local option tax revenue line, while still having over $500,000 in extra local option tax money coming in to pay for sidewalk and water and sewer expansions. I mean, we're right where we want to be. So, to Stan's point, taking care of that, getting that number to where it needs to be, because that 35,730 is probably cutting ourselves maybe 30-40% of where we need to be, if I had to guess. I mean, you're gonna come before, at some point, we're gonna get to the point where you're coming before us every year to trade a truck out. I mean, we keep taking over, like, we're gonna fix up Tanglewood, the first thing that's gonna happen is gonna be, can you take the road over? And we're not gonna have a good enough reason to say no. And that's gonna continue, fixing stormwater. Stormwater is one of the only things that keeps us from owning a lot of these private roads. We fix that up, we're gonna inherit that liability, which isn't a bad thing, as long as we do it right. So Stan's right, I'm glad it's a sore point.
Well,
but I'm glad
stormwater and the quality of the base of the road, I will actually say, is
Well,
a
that's-
huge reason. So some of these we can take over if they get their stormwater permits current and pave, but some are just, they're a rehab of an entire road system. So not
all of them, but they're,
not all, but some.
as we fix things
The
up.
ro-
they'll
my
be fine.
driveway, for instance, I'm just gonna speak personally,
Yeah.
not gonna ever ask
Bellevue
the
carriage road.
not gonna do it, but, so I live on a private road that serves 8 houses.
Yeah, I mean,
It needs a lot of work.
we're gonna need more trucks. We built a big building because we foresee growth in the future, in the department, and in the town. So, get that number raised. Yeah, I'm talking too much again. Does anybody have any questions for Alan?
I just, I wasn't sure if there's any other lines that maybe you feel like you might have shaved a little closer than maybe you would feel comfortable with. Like, I mean, this is a small thing, but the streetlights, the budget in 2020 was 28, and then an actual was 22, but its budget fiscal year is 21 for both 21 and 22. So, I mean, it's a small thing, but I didn't know if there was other smaller places where there have been small cuts that might be either too close or maybe it's fine.
Thought we trimmed the streetlights because we went from regular to LED, and it
Yeah,
we
we-
finally saw the benefit in
Yeah.
that.
That's
We
a good
did.
reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll see how that plays out. I think
Yeah.
we're. What? Yeah. No, I think we did quite well there. You know, the only other subject, but I think that's coming up next time, is a carry about, we talked about replacement money for like the bridge and
Yeah,
culverts
Black Ridge,
and
yep.
so,
We
but
were
that's,
gonna get an engineer though to estimate how much
It's-
of new, what work would need to be done in the next few years and what our replacement schedule is. Is it 10 years, is it 20, is it 5, hopefully not.
Well, that's infrastructure. So if
Well,
we
it
come-
is, but, if we need to put a replacement fund in now, I'd rather save 10 grand a year or whatever.
Right, instead of having to all of a sudden save 50 to make up for something that was
Yep.
never saved for.
I brought it to Gary's attention that like Black Bridge, we had to do some paving on it, and we were down to the membrane. So, in the next few years, it's possible that might have to get stripped, re-membrane, redone. The underneath looks all right to me, but I am getting a structural engineer to take a look at it and give us some rough estimates. And like Carrie just said, instead of being hit with a big bill, maybe we just take the infrastructure money and we'll start putting a little aside just for structural
Yeah, that
replacements.
infrastructure development fund, if we decide we wanna take a, like, 20,000 a year and put it into another fund, like that, I think is totally reasonable. It's going towards infrastructure. Like, if we decide we wanna start using, which I think we have with that capital plan, if we wanna start using $100,000 a year for sidewalk improvements, and we go through a year and we only spend 50, we should take the full 100 out and throw it in a separate fund for sidewalks.
Yeah.
Or just keep an accounting of what's in the fund and where it goes.
Yeah.
That way that money doesn't get lost.
Mhm.
And we do the same thing with the bridge.
Ellen, do you or somebody in your shop look at our large culverts every year to see how they deteriorating or
Yeah,
condition?
I usually myself, I get down in, I take pictures, then I get with the state, they have to do what they call a hydraulic study. And then when they determine the hydraulic study of what was found, then I have to get an engineer, then they engineer a design, and then I start actively going after grants. But generally, I'm the one that'll crawl down in and get pictures and take a look at them. And
Have you seen anything this year that you've inspected that need?
yeah, there's one on the backside of French Hill that scares me. It's probably 6 foot in diameter. Most of the bottom's rotted out.
Wow.
So I've got the state, of course with COVID, everything's running slow, but I got them working on the hydraulic study. As soon as that's done, then I'll get it engineered and work on structures.
Does a 6-foot culvert qualify as a bridge? No?
It does. This one's like 6 foot because you can almost stand up in it. It's one of the squash type culverts, and they have a cement base around it. Most generally, they'll go with an arch culvert in the hydraulic study or a box culvert. And the
So
state.
you're saying the bottom of this one's rotted?
Yeah, I mean, there's some structure underneath it, but the integrity of the culvert itself is all rotted, so eventually, like anything, if you put a cardboard box in the water and the bottom starts getting wet and the rest of it wants to slosh down.
Is there state grants to help us on something like that?
There is. I've been actively going after one because we have one more culvert that's failing on Church Road. So the last 2 years I've been actively trying to get a grant for that one and get that done. The studies, the engineering's all done on it. But we have a big bridge that goes over near Jewett Ave off of Kellogg Extension. I gotta get underneath that one. That one is a decent sized one, the one on French Hill. But I usually try to pick whichever ones are the worst ones and start working towards grants.
You've been very successful with grants. It's worth noting you brought in, what, 900 and change in your last 3 years?
Yeah,
4 years?
just under $1 million, I'd say, in grants.
I mean,
Very good.
Yeah.
Alan's work with grants and his ability to collaborate with the regional planning to help produce a strong grant application has saved our taxpayers almost $1 million in 3 years. Like, that's not that's a fact.
Yeah, hats off to the regional planning. It's a great resource for the town.
Mhm.
I put all the information together. Their English is a little better than mine and they can type it up to make it look nice. But I get all the information and we've been very successful.
So, what, did anybody have any budget questions for Alan? Stan, thank you for every point you brought up.
I just have more of a comment, and I know we had talked about this in the past, but Public Works has 20 grand in engineering, and then Carrie has, I think, 25 in engineering and consulting. And then with the new stormwater position, I'm wondering if we should start thinking about hiring an engineer, especially as these bigger projects are going to start emerge.
Now, I think the same way, right? The question is, a lot of times you go to hire an engineer for a specific purpose, and they can't do what you're asking, so you gotta hire a different firm. Like, I've got a guy that can do my septic design, but he can't do my stormwater certifications. So it's whether or not you can find one person that's certified in everything to be able to make all these different lines work, or if it's all segmented off because we're hiring different firms to do different things. That's, you're dead on with that. That's the question, is could we hire somebody that could do all the work that we would need done? And could they do it in a 2,080 hour a year work schedule?
I think we could keep somebody really busy. Alan and I were talking about that, at least with civil, and if they had some stormwater knowledge, because a lot of your issues deal with
Stormwater.
some sort of stormwater,
Right.
rainfall, precip basically.
There's all your box culverts and, I mean, retention ponds and stuff like that.
Mhm.
As far as the box culvert, actually, a lot of the concrete companies have their own engineers, so I can actually have them design it if I give them the sizes. It won't even cost the town, because if they're getting the job, they'll do the engineering. But your retention ponds, storm water, you're shooting the grades and stuff, overseeing projects for the town is a great, it takes a little workload off of myself if they're overseeing a project.
Maybe
the
do
town
a
hall
cost
going on,
benefit
so.
analysis on that with Carrie and Dana. Maybe look at the budget, see how much engineering we have in play, and how much of it could, how much would we still need left over? And maybe just try to answer all the questions that we might ask. And you might find out halfway through the exercise that it is gonna work or that it's not. And we can either continue with it or end it at that point on your discretion. But it's worth going through that exercise to figure that out. Because if we're leaving money on the table and productivity off the floor, then Jessica's right.
Well, even as we look forward to building sidewalks, an engineer might have to sign off on those plans, or I don't know exactly how all the steps work, but it could be valuable to have someone on staff to do that.
Surveying is a huge one for sidewalks in particular. Being able to GPS where everything goes. Good point. John, Aaron, any?
No other questions from me?
Al, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
We're all set.
Perfect.
So, that's the fastest we've ever gone through that department, I think.
You're gonna have to bring John next year.
Good luck.
I got 3 phone calls this week because John was breaking into the ballot box.
Oh, no.
You had one that called me sketchy?
Yeah, he was
Sketchy.
sketchy. I saw this
Shady.
sketchy man.
Sketchy guy.
He was putting a new lock on it.
Oh,
Oh, no.
So they were watching him.
Kind one lady that wouldn't pull away. I'm like, I work here.
But I did thank
You
them
would
for
say
calling
that,
because I
huh?
think that's important.
Part of my job description was to maintain buildings and grounds. It's okay.
yeah.
Oh, poor child.
One
Aw.
one older lady says, promise me it'll get in there. I said, it will.
Don't worry about it.
But it
Maybe
is
some
good. It
ID.
is good for them to call if they're concerned.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
At least they're paying attention.
I should have recognized him.
Yeah.
John, is that your water bottle?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good
Have a
evening.
night.
Good night.
Take care.
Thank you for coming in, guys.
You realize we just asked them to help us spend more money.
Yep.
And some, especially with Stanton. Yeah, we just gave him like a walk-in to the Christmas tree shop. Do we wanna maybe tackle why don't we go through the clerks real quick since it's level funded?
It is pretty much level funded. I mean,
Start on
insurance.
page 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Insurance is up a little bit.
Insurance and salaries, that's it.
Beamer's, the state controls that for every employee. That went up.
That went up? I thought it wasn't going up.
It went up last year.
Last year. Right.
It went
Okay.
up, July 1st of this year, it
Okay,
went
good.
up.
That's what I thought.
And
But-
Beamer's, that's the retirement plan?
Yeah,
Vermont Municipal
Yeah.
Employee
Employees,
Retirement.
it went up
System.
July 1st of this year, and when I looked online on the state website, there was no increase in July 1, 2022. Pretty much everything else, I did cut some things like,
Balance in the report.
yeah. The school, mainly, the main reason for the ballots in town report is the school. Maple Run puts out their own town report now.
Right.
And
Other than that,
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Anna?
Only question I remember for town meeting day last year, I think didn't our ballot tabulator kind of reached its max? We had so many ballots, and there was some that we had to count by hand. Was that at the very end?
It wasn't the
Well,
machine.
It wasn't
Wasn't
the
the machine.
tabulator,
Okay,
no,
okay.
It was
no.
different.
Maybe a ballot got torn
Mhm.
Well, it was because we ran out.
and we ran out of
We ran
ballots,
out of
so we
ballots.
had to
Like
use
photocopies.
paper ones and
Okay.
count
Can't
them by
reprint
hand.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a problem.
I'm glad
Mhm.
That's the
that's
problem.
It was a
Uh,
good problem because
Yes.
we had a lot of people vote.
standing
Yeah.
over there till what, like 10:30? Anna was there till probably after midnight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The box was filled, and
Phil,
fortunately Carrie was standing there, and she came over, and while I was emptying the box, telling people which
yeah.
Mhm.
That
place
was,
to place them.
Mhm.
that was a long night.
Long night.
And I don't think we're at the point where we really need two of them yet.
Okay.
I think maybe where you're going with that.
I mean,
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a-
City Hall has two, and
They've
they
got the
don't
same
use them
number.
because they don't get as many voters, I don't think, as we do. Eventually, yeah, I do think we'll need two.
Mhm.
How much roughly you think we're talking? when we go to-
$6,000.
Okay, so we can fund that in the budget somewhere.
Yeah,
Got it.
the
That's
cost
it.
is in the tabulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
That
mean,
every year that you have to get it done.
yeah,
done,
they
right?
come and clean it and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That must
But
be
this
something.
year went smooth on town meeting day, and we did have a lot of people vote on town meeting day.
Yes.
Well, we ran out of ballots, that was the only thing that was wrong with it.
Yeah,
I think November could have a big turnout too.
A
primary,
lot of it's gonna be mailed.
Yep.
right.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I mean,
So do you foresee, Anna, that the town be paying for ballots being mailed out the way we just mailed 6,000 out?
We didn't mail those out, the state did. That
Who-
cost is on them.
But that's my question, do you see that coming down to the towns?
To mail out ballots to every
Yeah.
single voter, I don't think the state can mandate that going forward. I think they did it as a safeguard this year due to COVID.
I don't think we should do it in the spring.
Okay,
I think we should do it request.
Yeah,
There's too much, we don't have a big staff like the Secretary of State has to be looking at these. Just scrub that list down.
I wish they would have let the clerks handle it. I think we would have done a better job.
Well, they could have had every single clerk's office in the state working for them if they had asked, but they
Yeah.
didn't ask. I mean, we're talking about, and you can handle absentee ballot requests,
Yeah.
even if it's increased.
Yeah,
I mean, we're gonna get that anyway, I don't know. Sending them all out is, I think we're gonna learn a tough lesson. It sounds like every single close within the margin of error election around the country could get thrown out in court if we're not. I'm really thinking we're gonna have a special election next year anyway, but
let's hope not.
let's hope not locally.
Related
Yeah.
to, I just had another non-budget question, but since we're, this is a public meeting, I just had a question. Are we in need of any poll volunteers this year, poll workers?
I'm working on my schedule this week. We do have 2 districts again in November. It's the role of the select board and the justices to work the polls. So I'll reach out to them first, and then I'll be in contact with whoever.
Okay.
I'm gonna have a couple of EMTs, because Tim Vian wants temperature checks
Mm-hmm.
at peak times.
Mm.
We don't need to take down names for how do you say, tracing? Because we have our entrance checklist.
Right.
Well, how do you, the law on that though, I get that, when you said that.
It's a school
But we're voting.
where we're voting. It's technically a school. It belongs to the school. So whenever you go into a school, they check your temperature.
But it's voting, like what did we do, like are we gonna have something set up in a parking lot where if you have a high temperature, we bring your ballot
Yeah,
out to you?
yeah,
Okay, so as long as there's no-
yeah,
Okay, you already thought of it,
Yeah.
that's like.
And the
it's just-
contact
Yeah.
tracing is the
Voter
voter
checklist.
checklist.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Check in, check
beautiful.
yeah.
in.
Al,
Al has a question?
It's for Anna. Have you recently talked to Dr. Durst?
Who?
Kevin
This is
Durst.
Al. The question is to Anna. Have you recently talked to the superintendent?
No, but
Okay.
during the primary, he was spoken to. And it was, I think I have it in an email where, yes, temperatures had to be checked, people going into the complex.
Okay, he was at a meeting this week. Anna, he was at a meeting this week where he said he was allowing nobody into any school facility. That's why I raised the question. maybe you should check with him again.
I will, thank you. I was in contact with Tim Vians, but I will check with Kevin again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's too late to change it.
Yeah, no, you can't.
Well, we will have it
Anymore.
anymore.
I mean, the gym is open there, they're letting the community in.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there must be
Yeah.
a different set of rules for that type
Yeah.
of building.
He won't let Rotary in.
Oh,
At Collins Pearly, he won't?
No.
Well, if they want our money,
They just have to do
Yeah, literally.
I write the check.
We was there last week.
Yeah.
Started spinning again, it's been good.
I'm glad I made you laugh, Al.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions for Anna about her budget? Okay,
I just have a general, it's not directed towards any. I have one question, just a general question, like on the health insurance line for each department.
Yep.
You know, they all vary. Like
Yep.
some have, is it just because of the coverage? that
Well,
you
yeah,
pick?
some, like,
Different
I
levels?
don't have children anymore, so I'm just a two-person.
We used to budget like family for every full-time equivalent, but then that seemed like we were collecting more money than we needed to because like myself, I don't get insurance, I take the cash in lieu, so now
Yeah.
we budget really close to what we believe we're gonna need.
And plus, we get one of these every year in the mail, and it's different coverage for every scenario. And so you know what the costs are monthly, so I know what my costs monthly are this year, and this is telling you what my costs are gonna be next year. So I'm able to zero in on an exact figure.
look at page 2 then.
And our open enrollment, obviously happens when a lot of others do in November. So we know what, generally before the budget's completed, what people
Look at
are gonna pay.
page 2, Director of Administration.
Mm-hmm.
FY '21, we knew what we had there, single person. We don't know what we're gonna have in '22, so they budgeted for a family plan. That's a difference there. If they had,
Yep.
see, they've been smart about it, keeping track of who they have, because we're a small organization. That's how much more we could have been charging the taxpayer, you know, $11,000 more. But they're smart about it. So that's an example of, you know,
Yep.
these
We're
folks
trying.
do a lot of really good work that we don't even know they do.
But, you know, conversely, if we have somebody take a family plan and we didn't count on it, you might see a line over, but we can usually find that money somewhere else in the budget. You know, 5 or 10.
Very good. When you get it, I don't think people understand and participate the inner workings of especially this municipality until you go through a budget session like this. It is almost amazing to figure out the inner workings and the intricacies and the understanding and the intuitiveness. It's,
I really like talking about the budget, but no one ever comes to see me about it.
I do.
Anna and I, Al comes, actually, that's not true, Al does now, but
I love it.
I know, me too.
anytime. Well, so if we're good at the clerk's office, assessing is the same scenario. Nothing really to talk about there. Planning and zoning, again, same scenario, only thing that, and that's really, and the same thing for director of administration, the only thing that was different was the,
Title.
that and what we talked about with health insurance, which was a good segue into that. Select board, I'm not gonna argue that we take a pay cut, lost that battle 3 years in a row. Then you get into the town manager, which is, you know, it's level funded, it's up, you know, what is that?
$200.
Yeah, $199. Enforcement is down. We've already gone through the fire department. Law enforcement, we know it's up, we know why.
Not to interrupt you, are we sure of the figure of the Franklin County clerk?
I'm not, that's an estimate.
Okay.
The Franklin County tax, you mean?
Yeah.
Same with the ambulance.
Right, that is an estimate right
Okay.
now. I did ask Assistant Judge McCarthy, and he did not know what the number was yet.
Okay.
And ambulance is the same thing. We're calling it level funded because that's what we wanna do.
Yeah, that is also an estimate. I've not received a request.
So the only thing really left to talk about in this whole budget is the local, regional, state organizations, and I think that since we're doing so well, we should just get that out of the way now, and then we'll have gone through the budget once.
You can if you want, and what we normally do with this is go down this one line by line, and as a board, or as a group, you can do a group consensus, but, level funded everything short of regional planning on here.
So
I
there's an
believe-
extra line for the historical society. We know that, that'll come out. The Veterans Ballet, we didn't budget anything last year, but we are this year. Is there a story behind that?
Are they allowed, Al would know.
Actually, I
Are they
think-
working now, Al? The veterans?
No, we've been suspended while the Culvert, is still in effect at the hospital, so there are no volunteers, both, veteran ballets or, the hospital volunteers. I would still say keep funding it because some adjustments as people come back, expenses to the hospital to make some, area processes to protect people.
Well, is that not reimbursable for the hospital through COVID expense reimbursement through federal aid?
I don't know the answer to that.
What about the museum?
It's up on
And
top.
Al, we did not fund it last year.
It's up here.
Where?
Remember, we gave them $2,000 to help
Oh,
pay off the
okay.
vehicle, and
I
we
gotta
said
get rid of
after
that
that we were
one.
done,
Mhm.
and
I
then we
can't though
stopped.
because it was in FY '20.
Yeah, well, I remember the $2,000 to pay off the vehicle. But your question is, should we continue funding the ballet service?
That
Well,
is
we didn't-
correct.
We didn't fund it last year, so the question is there a reason why we are again funding it this year?
I
Did
just,
you,
go
did
ahead,
you
Al.
receive a letter?
No, we did not. We did not receive a letter.
All right, let me check with the Integral.
So for that, we're gonna put an asterisk next to it, and we're gonna see what the story is, and then consider it again. Does that make sense to everyone?
Makes sense.
Alright,
Did any of these organizations send a letter requesting more or asking for a change?
I wasn't prepared to talk about it today, so I'm not.
Why don't we wait?
Well, I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
even look at
alright,
the
so
folder.
do we wanna, anybody have any other questions about the budget while we're all here, or do we wanna adjourn? Cause I'm fine with going home.
Oh, that's a jerk.
Yeah,
Well, I
no,
mean-
seriously,
That's cool about adjourning. Are there any other questions, or you just wanna wait till we know? Cause usually I have letters and.
Well, why don't we wait for the,
Okay.
cause that's the only thing we haven't gone through.
That
Yeah,
is
we
correct.
can do that.
We got more done tonight than we thought we would. We're in better shape now than we thought we would be.
Correct.
So it's a good meeting.
Take a victory lap.
That said, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in
Go
favor?
home and take
Aye.
Thank you, Al, have a good night.
Get ready to
Thanks, Al.
motherland.
You need a place to.
That's-
People, before we go,